everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand, and happy Wednesday, happy hump day it is, Wednesday morning. It has been exactly a year since the Glazers announced that they wanted to sell the club or seek investment, and we're at a point where we've had developments, but there's still been no announcement. It's absolutely crazy how long this has took. We've also got some news, as you can see, on Evan Ferguson. Manchester United want to enter that race, but they're going to have a lot of people to compete with. Outside Bayern Days, not very happy with the words of Edwin van der Sar. And we've also got a little bit of stuff coming out about pre-season and players not being happy with the workload that is on them. And we're going to discuss it all in today's morning show. But welcome everybody to the show. Get in the chat down below how you're feeling on this Wednesday morning, how you feel about Evan Ferguson, get it in straight away. But I want to start off with just a little bit on the news about no deal. And it looks like the deal is probably going to be announced next week. So we've been delayed again. We were thinking at the end of last week it could have been then we were told this week. And again, a deal will definitely not be announced today. And it is looking like that the deal will probably now be announced next week, and that's coming from sources very close to the ownership situation. So it doesn't look like the deal definitely won't be today, and it probably won't be by the end of this week either. So it just feels like there's more and more delays. And to be honest with you, it's one of them things where I really want to get the update because I want to know in depth what is actually happening with this 25%. How the shares are going to work, what personnel Sir Jim's going to bring in. I want to see everything start to get cracking and get started, basically. I want to know the statement that they're going to put out around what the plan is. And I'm sure there's been rumours that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to do some interviews with people and explain himself on how he wants to run Manchester United and how he wants to use this 25%. So I want to get into that nitty-gritty detail, and I want to know how things are going to work. And I'm sure you guys do as well. So that's why I want the announcement soon. But I think it's been said by pretty much every reliable journalist now that Sir Jim has got 25%. So there's no worries about that. Like, it is going to happen. There's no way Qatar come back in. I've seen, ITKs on Twitter saying, Qatar could still enter the race. It's not true. Like, Sir Jim has got 25% of Manchester United. I just want to know what that's going to entail. And that's why I want the announcement to be soon. We were told it was before Thanksgiving, which, what date is Thanksgiving in America, actually? I'm sure there'll be some Americans in the chat. So Thanksgiving is tomorrow. Thanksgiving is literally tomorrow. So we were told it was going to be before Thanksgiving. That's not going to happen. So again, it's just more and more delays. But doesn't that just sum up the Glazers and how they run Manchester United? It takes us an absolute age to get a transfer over the line, never mind to get an ownership deal for 25% over the line. So it is coming. It's just going to take a long time. And that's how we've been feeling. That's how we've been feeling all the way throughout this ownership process. Can I just say, the fact that it has been a whole year since our lives were absolutely shook and the Glazers put that statement out around seeking minority investment or seeking potentially even a full sale of the club, which we know now probably was never going to happen, considering what they would have demanded for a full sale of the club. Like, nobody was ever going to meet that, hence the fact that nobody did. Manchester United is the biggest club in the world. There's not loads of billionaires around, but there was people with well enough money to go and buy the Glazers out of the football club. They didn't, because what the Glazers expected for a full sale of the club was absolutely ridiculous, really, considering the actual fair and realistic price of Manchester United. So they were always looking for that minority investment, in my opinion. They were always looking to try and find a way to keep hold of the club and keep taking money out of it. That's what they're always looking for. But the fact it's been a year, I said this morning when I found out that news, I said, it's weird. I feel like a year's flashed before my eyes, but at the same time, it feels like it's been dragging out for ages and ages and ages, and it feels like we've really got no resolution even now. I mean, within the last couple of months, we've had this Sir Jim thing break that it is going to be him that moves on with the 25% stake of the club, and Qatar left the race. Sheikh Jassim left the race, but apart from that, it's been a very, very long, dragged-out year, but at the same time, it's gone really quick. It's a weird one, but get in the comments down below how you guys feel about that. And also, get a like on the video if you're excited about Evan Ferguson and what this could entail. A lot of people say maybe we need a more experienced striker, but Evan Ferguson is definitely a name that Manchester United are watching. They were looking at him closely in the summer, and it's definitely a name that is still on Manchester United's radar. And who knows, with Sir Jim coming in, could be a marquee signing. We'll get into that in a second. So we've got Sam Sargent in the chat, member for 27 months, saying, cheers for making me work from home. days better these last few years. See you guys at the Christmas show. Thank you, Sam. I am glad that we get to entertain you when you're working from home. We love that. We love our community. And I will see you at the Christmas show. Make sure you come and say hello. And if anyone does want to see everyone from the United stand and have a great show, the Christmas show, on Monday, the 11th of December, not the 11th of November, that's gone. The 11th of December, make sure you hit the link in the video. Go and get your tickets. There's a couple left. Go and get them and join us at the Christmas show. Could even go and watch Man United Bayern Munich the day after. It's going to be a fun week and hopefully we'll get through the Champions League and everyone will be happy, but who knows if that's going to happen. I'm not counting my blessings for that. I'm more counting my blessings of the fact that it definitely will be a good Christmas show. That you can be certain on. You can't be certain on the fact that Man United will beat Bayern Munich the day after. But you'll get a good Christmas show out of it, so go and check out the tickets there. But Evan Ferguson, get your comments in the chat. I want to quickly get a poll going on this. We'll get a poll straight away because I want to see people's opinions. Would you spend 100 million on Evan Ferguson? Because do not get me wrong, that is what he's going to cost. I think he'll cost more than 100 million. I think he's 19 years old. Let me just double check his age because I like to be correct on these things. Yes, he's 19 years old and he's just signed a new deal at Brighton. That I think it takes him up until Evan Ferguson new deal. It takes him up till 2029. And Brighton will be absolutely willing to sell Evan Ferguson, as they always are with the talent that they have, because they're a selling club. But we've seen what Brighton have done before with the Cucurella deal, with the Caicedo deal. McAllister, they couldn't do it to Liverpool because McAllister had a release clause in his contract, so they couldn't do it. But Evan Ferguson doesn't have a release clause in his contract that I'm aware of. And Evan Ferguson is a young talent that's playing in the Premier League as a forward player, the most expensive type of players. He's going to cost an absolute bomb. I think Brighton will want a record fee for Evan Ferguson. I'm going to be honest. I think he's super talented. If anyone remembers, I did a video on Evan Ferguson. I think it was maybe this time last year, talking about how I thought Manchester United should go for him and invest in him for the future. We've bid 50 million for him in the summer, really, really low key. It didn't really go that big, but we did bid 50 million for him, which Brighton just laughed at and said, you know what, stay, Evan, sign a new deal. We'll let you go when a club comes knocking, which they inevitably will. And this is better for your development. Evan Ferguson decided to stay there. It is quite well known that he is a Manchester United fan, whether that'll have any sort of tilt in it whatsoever. But he's an amazing talent, but he's not got the experience. We've signed Højlund, who's an amazing talent as well. Do you want two players that are really young and progressive and eventually in, 3 or 4 years could be absolutely top of the tree, but right now they really need some experience around them to help them develop? Because realistically, with Højlund being only 20 years old, only a year older than Evan Ferguson and the talent that he has, you'd think you need someone a little bit more experienced for Højlund to learn off and develop with, not someone like mega old, but someone that's a bit more experienced and kind of knows the trade inside out. With Evan Ferguson and Højlund together, it's great youth and it's great prospects, but they haven't got that senior figure to look up to in the squad. So let's get a poll going. Would you sign Evan Ferguson for 100 million? And I think it'll be more than that. What did Caicedo go for? Caicedo went for about 115, was it? Yeah, 115 million. So Evan Ferguson, I'm thinking it's going to be around 120 mil. And some would say that's absolutely extortionate in today's market. Realistically, with what you're getting, it's quite fair. It's quite fair. Really, think about it. City spent 100 mil on Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish is a great player. And I know people will say he isn't because he plays for City. He is a great player. But Evan Ferguson is a striker, and all of the years that he's got left in him and all the years of development that's there and the potential and the ceiling, that kind of works out in today's market. I mean, we skewed the transfer market when we spent nearly 90 million on Anthony. If Anthony's worth 90 million, of course Evan Ferguson's worth over 100 million, and that's exactly what Brighton will go and get, and they will get it off somebody as well because there's so many clubs monitoring him. I'm going to get into the details of that in a second. Let me vote in the poll. It's a hard one for me because I would want to buy Evan Ferguson, but for 100 mil, when realistically I feel like we've already got that sort of prospect in Højlund, would I do it? For now, I'm going to hit no. Oh, you guys are on the same page. I thought it'd be a lot more tilted towards yes. You guys are on 32% say yes and 68% say no. If you have any reasonings for that, get it in the chat. I'd be interested to hear your opinion. Gabrielle Akari, a member for 17 months, thank you, Gabrielle, says, Matthew Starkey in the chat says it's his birthday today, Beth. Happy birthday. And Beth, keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Gabrielle. And Matthew Starkey, happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy it. Enjoy your day. I hope you're doing something special. And happy birthday from everyone here at the United Stand. Bulu, a member for 21 months, says, no point signing a striker if we don't create enough chances for our striker. We need to rebuild the midfield and wingers. Bulu, you are making an excellent point, and that is absolutely true. Because the fact of the matter is, yes, Højlund's not scoring in the Premier League yet. He's doing brilliantly in the Champions League, which people seem to try and avoid, you know, opposition fans, and they're trying to bring Højlund down. But it's like, you look at different players in the Premier League, and I'm looking at it, and for example, Nicholas Jackson scored how many goals in the Prem this year? Is it 5, 4 or 5? And Højlund scored none. I know now that Højlund's got a higher ceiling than Nicholas Jackson because I've watched him with my own eyes. Football's a funny game in the sense of sometimes stats can tell you one story and your eyes can tell you a different. Of course, stats are important, and I actually think Nicholas Jackson's a good talent, and I think people are way too harsh on him. I think he's a good player. But I really do think Højlund has the potential to be absolutely exceptional, and I can see that by watching him. He's missed a couple of chances, like he did in the Luton game, and I think there was one in the Burnley game that he probably could have scored, but I'm singling minor chances out. Every striker misses chances. I think, if I'm not wrong, and I did look at this stat a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's changed now, but Haaland had missed the most big chances in the Premier League. He had missed the most big chances in the Premier League, and he scored the most goals in the Premier League. He's an absolute goal-scoring machine, but he's missed the most chances in the Premier League. And you think to yourself, yeah, Højlund's missed a couple of chances for us, but strikers miss chances. The point is you've got to provide them with depths of chances, and a lot of them they will score, but they are going to miss a few. Every good striker will do. So with Højlund, we're just not providing him with enough. I'm hoping when Luke Shaw comes back, he will be able to add to the creation. But Manchester United need to be looking more towards the striker rather than just across the whole front three. You've got Rashford, who his first instinct is to shoot, and fair enough, he has tried passing a little bit more this season. It's not really paid off yet, but I think it will eventually. Anthony never crosses, he just cuts inside. And then Garnacho, to be fair, he is a bit of a creator, but he's also the type that likes to cut in and shoot. Palestri's really the only one that's always looking up for the striker, and he barely gets any game time. So with Højlund, for example, for me, if you put him in Man City's team, I already think he'd have quite a few Premier League goals this season. I think he'd be excellent. And I think Højlund is an excellent player. I think he's got all the attributes. He's tall, he's physical, he's pacey, he's got good finishing, he's got good technical ability. His link-up play is decent. It needs a bit of work. Sometimes he makes the wrong decision, but he's 20 years old. Of course he's going to. The amount Haaland's link-up play has improved from when he first walked in at City to now is come on leaps and bounds, and he was already brilliant when he came. So Højlund's got so many strings to his bow, and there's so much to develop. I just hope we don't ruin him because we're not creating enough chances for him, and he doesn't have that opportunity to develop because he's not getting the chances. So for me, he's always been a graveyard shift for the striker. When it was Martial, a lot of people blamed Martial. You saw pundits in the media saying Man United will never get anywhere with Martial as a striker. Martial, he's been here for 6 years, what's he done? And Højlund for me is a better striker than Martial. That position, I always say, I think Martial is an incredible footballer. I'm not necessarily sure I know he's not a top level striker. He's an incredible footballer, but he's not a top level striker. But he got so much blame when he was playing as that centre forward role, where realistically for Manchester United for a long time it's been a graveyard shift. Ronaldo came in, it was a graveyard shift. Højlund's experiencing the same thing, and we need to be patient with him, and we need to figure out a way to create more chances for him. And Erik ten Hag really needs to do that, because whether that's using your fullbacks more, which will help obviously with Luke Shaw, whether it's changing up the wingers, if the wingers you've currently got playing aren't capable, and the two number 10s in Mount and Bruno haven't paid off in the way Erik ten Hag wanted them to. Hopefully he can develop that and implement that, but that was probably something that he thought was going to work here, which would benefit the striker as well. So there's loads of different things as to why Man United need to go for a striker, and I'm absolutely on the mindset of Man United need another striker. You can't just put all the workload on Højlund. You can't pile it all up on Højlund. You want to manage a player of that age. Like the way Pep Guardiola has managed the likes of Foden. Like, when's Foden ever had a serious injury? He's really not. Like, he's been injured, of course, but he's managed him to perfection because he has the ability to, because he's got so many good players in that squad that he can utilise. It's like Gavi's just got injured for Barcelona. I've seen that he's played a ridiculous amount of games. It's such a young age. You've got to be careful with these players, and we've got to be careful with Haaland as well. I think Haaland's absolutely good enough to lead the line for Man United, and I think he's got so much to give. But you can't put it all on him, which is why we do need another striker. And I think Martial will eventually go, and he's too injury prone to rely on. But we absolutely need another striker, whether that would be Evan Ferguson. Get in the comments down below whether you'd want to go for him. He's definitely going to move. A top club's going to go for him. I would be absolutely over the moon if we did get him, because I think he's a brilliant talent. 100 mil plus for me is a lot to be spending on that area for someone that, again, is potential. He's doing it in the Premier League, and I absolutely have no doubts he's going to go straight to the top. I believe in the Premier League he will go straight to the top. But does Man United need that experience? And would you rather spend that money on an Osimhen type who's a bit older? What do you guys think? Get in the comments. But I want to read out the actual news that was coming from Team Talk. Let me see if there's any chats here that I have missed. A lot of people saying eye test all the way in the chat. Absolutely. Phil says, why do we need another striker when we don't create chances? There are so many positions more important than a striker. Phil, I get what you're saying. Of course, we need to work on the width of Man United is a problem, and we need to work on being better and keeping the ball in the midfield to create these chances. But I do think we need another striker. Martial's not reliable enough, and Haaland's young, and you don't want to put all the pressure on him. You do need to get another striker. Greg Frost said Martial should play this season, still needs to leave, but he's one of our best players. Greg, I think technically on his day, he's one of our best players, absolutely. I don't think as a striker he's top level, but I'm excited to see him play against Everton. I really, really am. Because I like Martial, I think he's a good player. I know he's a very controversial player in our fan bases. Some people really like him, some people don't. He's just too injury prone to kind of move forward with. Solid Blake says money wasted on Mount could have gone elsewhere. Well, Ten Hag has a plan for Mount, but he's not been able to implement it, which again, it comes down to, you've got to ask questions of Ten Hag. Emiliano says Mitoma and Pellistri would be great as our wingers. Emiliano, Mitoma and Pellistri on the right and the left would be absolutely unreal. Absolutely unreal for me. Again, people always question me, Beth, why do you like Pellistri so much? To be honest, I don't think Pellistri's anyone that's going to come in and pull up any trees, and I've not seen anything from him to be like, yes, he's going to be an absolute world beater. But with Pellistri, he's somebody that has a right foot on the right wing, has so much potential. He's got such a low centre of gravity, he dribbles really well, he presses really well, he's got energy. His physicality's improved. He's been starting for his country, which has helped him massively. And he's someone that actually gets the ball into the box and provides for the striker. Keeps the ball well. I would love Pellistri to play more for Man United. I think he's a proper talent that we have in our hands. And he's young as well. Mitoma, I know Mitoma's not the youngest, but he's at a good age, in his prime. I think he's absolutely unbelievable. Would absolutely love him, but it won't happen, sadly. It won't happen. But anyway, let me talk about the actual information that's coming out about Evan Ferguson. So, Arsenal and Chelsea will join Premier League rivals Tottenham, Liverpool and Manchester United in a race to sign Brighton star Evan Ferguson, Team Talk can reveal. It then goes on to say, for any club to prize the Irish striker away from the Seagulls, they'll have to front up a huge fee, which sources stating Brighton value him at over 100 million and could even hope to secure a fee in excess of the British record 150 million package paid for Caicedo, which, by the way, I get why Brighton will want that price, and they absolutely should demand it, and I think they will get it. But the fact that Brighton went for that, that would be cheap for Brighton to go for that much. But the fact that Caicedo went, a midfielder, a holding midfielder as well, went for 115 million is absolutely crazy to me. I think Caicedo's a good player. Do not get me wrong, I think he's a very good player. But is he 115 million? Never in my wildest dreams do I think he's worth that amount of money. But Chelsea paid it, and this is what happens. The transfer market then becomes very skewed and prices start to rise, and that's exactly what's happened. Chelsea and Arsenal want a forward as they look to get at the top of the Premier League table, but may wait until the summer for Ferguson due to his high asking price. See, this is interesting for me. I see Arsenal as the exact type of team that would go for an Evan Ferguson. They're in desperate need of a striker. Evan Ferguson would be brilliant for them, the same way Ivan Toney would be. But for me, Arsenal need to go and get a striker in January. For that to happen, I think they go and get Ivan Toney in January. I think that's what Arsenal do. I think they go and get Ivan Toney. I think Ivan Toney will cost them probably around 70, 75 mil. I know they're touting 80. I think they'll be able to get him off Brentford for probably 70, 75, which is still really expensive. But for Ivan Toney's quality and the fact he's in his prime, I think it's a decent deal. And I think that'd be a great deal for Arsenal. They massively need a striker like Ivan Toney. If they go and spend that money on Ivan Toney in January, they're not going back in for Evan Ferguson in the summer for over 100 million. Ivan Toney's then their man. They also have Gabriel Jesus. They have Havertz, who can play there if necessary, even though he's not good there, like great there. But they have Jesus, who's a decent striker. And I'm not comparing Jesus and Martial, but Jesus is also kind of that ilk. He's never going to get you I don't think he'll ever get you 20, 25 goals a season in the Premier League, but he's good across the front three. He's kind of a glue, and he's a very good player. He can play there, but they need like an out-and-out number 9, Arsenal. I don't think they can wait till the summer, and Evan Ferguson will not be going in January. I really highly doubt it, unless someone absolutely smashes the transfer record, which I doubt. Very highly doubt will do it in January. So I think Arsenal will actually go for Toney, which will then take them out of the Ferguson race, which is good for us. Chelsea, because Arsenal, let's be honest, are more attractive to go to than United right now. I hate to say it, but it's true. They play better football, they're more progressed in their rebuild, and they're more likely to win a trophy than us. It's just the way it is right now. But if Arsenal go out that race, you then have Chelsea left, Chelsea, yeah, they're attractive, they're in London, they'll pay you high wages, they need a striker. Nicholas Jackson's good, but they probably need somebody else as well. They've got Brozier, but, who knows how good he's going to be in the future. He's, again, young. So I can see Chelsea going back to Brighton. They've got a relationship there with them. They've already given a shed load of money. And obviously it's a nice place to live. They're going to have good wages. And they do seem to be on the rise. But Chelsea are not in a position that Chelsea were a few years ago when they were very, very attractive. They were winning everything. Chelsea are not at the point where they're in a position to go on and win everything right now. So that still keeps, Man United in the race. Spurs, again, they're an attractive outfit because they need a successor to Harry Kane. That's so obvious. And to be honest with you, I was really, really shocked when Spurs didn't go for Evan Ferguson in the summer. I was really shocked. You would have thought Harry Kane leaves, with the money that you've got for him, you would have thought you would go and invest it into a young version of Harry Kane, which I'm not saying Evan Ferguson is going to be like Harry Kane, but they've got very similar qualities. Why would you not do that? I really thought they would have gone for him. But that doesn't mean they won't in the future, and I think Spurs would be a destination that I could see him going to. But again, even though Spurs are doing really well, can they keep it up under Ange? He's doing great so far, but can they keep it up? And realistically, when you look at the stature of Manchester United, if Man United can get to the point where they're consistently winning games and consistently playing decent football, which feels like a little bit of a way off right now, Man United are more attractive than Spurs. So Man United are well in this deal. But let me talk a little bit more. So obviously, I've said he's got a 6-year deal that runs till 2029 with a salary beyond $1 million per year, which was double what he's receiving previously. But wage will not be a problem for clubs chasing his signature. Tony Bloom and his staff will not let the goalscorer leave without a huge return on their investment. So that's the thing. Erik ten Hag has reportedly made the teenager a top target for United as they look to solve their problems in front of goal. And the Red Devils have watched Ferguson extensively in the recent weeks and are determined to win the race for his signature. United have previously bid $50 million for Ferguson to see that offer declined, and it will be likely that any interested side would have to at least double that in hopes of landing the star to $100 million. Tottenham are also incredibly keen on Ferguson and see him as the ideal long-term replacement for Harry Kane, which is what I said, who departed for Bayern Munich in the summer. Again, I can see this be a deal that United go for. I really can. But we've not had an Irish player at the club for a long time as well, which obviously that's not a reason why you should go and buy a player, but it'd be nice. But he's so talented. I would be very happy if we went for him, but at the same time, it's a lot of money to spend on a player that's very of a similar sort of age range and potential structure as Rasmus Højlund. You'd surely go for something with a little bit of a difference, like experience and maybe a different sort of player. But get in the comments what you guys would think. That is the story on Evan Ferguson. What I will say, and I didn't want to bring this up on the show because people will be like, no, Beth, your sauce is ketchup and mayo. But in the summer, I don't even know if I'm going to say it because I feel like people won't believe me. But in the summer, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it because people will clip this up and say that I'm chatting rubbish when I'm not. John Wayne Gacy says, could have got a Kanji cheat, but he supported United, but he's good at City. Thank you for your super chat. And Ruth Bates says, I think a 4-4-2 approach with Rashford and Højlund up front, striking to support each other, and Pellistri on the right and Garnacho on the left. Would love to see Garnacho on the left and Pellistri on the right. That's another combination that I think would work. A lot of people in the chat are saying, say it. Well, if I say it, you can't say that I'm making it up. Right, so in the summer, when we were looking at Højlund and Kane, and they were the names on the radar, and I was obviously coming here to do transfer shows every day. My dad works with somebody who's very close to somebody who does a lot of conferences with the staff at Manchester United, and he told my dad, because he knows obviously I do the United stand, he was like, you should tell Beth to say this on a show. This is from someone from Manchester United that was in a conference with me, like high up people at Manchester United, and they said that Man United are going to get Evan Ferguson. They really want Evan Ferguson. He's a player that Ten Hag really wants and likes, and that's probably the player that Man United might move to last minute in the summer if they don't manage to get Harry Kane. That's what I got told in the summer. Obviously, that didn't end up happening. We did put a 50 mil bid in for Evan Ferguson, though, so he was on the radar. But we ended up going for Rasmus Højlund, which was always an option that it's always the top option for Erik Ten Hag as well, and for people at the club who I'm really happy we did go for. I really do like Rasmus. Again, if people are saying I'm chatting, I'm not chatting. That's why I didn't want to say it, because I know people would be lying, would say that I was chatting about it. But that is, take it as you will. People wanted to know. So he has been on our radar, and everybody knows that he's been on our radar. Whether we'll actually pull the trigger and go for over 100 million, I'm not sure. The thing is with United is we always move too late on players. It's like we didn't go for Jack Grealish when I think it was Villa wanted around 70 million for him, and Ollie desperately wanted him. We didn't go for Jack Grealish. Then when we finally went in for him, it was too much money. And it's like, why do we always move too late? Evan Ferguson, we could have got him earlier on in his career, and fair enough, he wasn't proven yet. But sometimes you've got to take these risks. Remember when Camavinga, we were offered 25 million and Rennes wanted 30 and we pulled out because we went and got Ronaldo? Like, how silly can we be? Camavinga was the move. We'd always go too late. But anyway. Let's move on to the next topic of conversation on Evan Ferguson. Yeah, we were too busy signing Donny van de Bench. Exactly. And for that 40 million we spent on Donny van de Beek, we could have added to that money and got a player in that was actually like top draw. And to be honest with you, I know it sounds like I don't want this to sound like harsh on Rashford, but imagine if we had have got Grealish. Grealish is plays on the left wing. Like, what would have actually happened? Would Rashford have been benched? Would Rashford have been developed into a striker? Would Rashford have played on the right? Like, what would have happened? Because you wouldn't have, like, Grealish is a left-sided player, and he would be playing. Like, he would be playing. I've had arguments with people all the time. Rashford's a better goal scorer than Jack Grealish, but as a footballer, Jack Grealish is better. So what would have happened? But anyway, that's in the past now. Let's move on to the next bit of the show. So, Jamie Jackson came out with a story last night. He said a section of Manchester United players believe the team's poor start is down to Erik Ten Hag overworking the squad in pre-season. They've complained of the beginning of the campaign as feeling tired as when they finished the previous one. Again, on this, what's this? Can anyone guess what that is? Actually, people might take that wrong. That is the world's smallest violin playing. That's what it is. I mean, come on. You're in pre-season for Manchester United. Of course it's going to be hard work. Pre-seasons, by the way, are meant to be hard work. Like, that's what they're meant to be. We heard stories coming out that when Pochettino took over Chelsea in the summer, in pre-season, they were absolutely, like, the players were going through it. It was really hard physical stuff. The same with Ange when he took over at Tottenham. The same with Conte when he came into Tottenham as well. Like, this is what happens. In pre-season, you are meant to work really hard to get... Oh, the chat never fails to make me laugh. But you're meant to get really hard to get ready for the work. Get really hard? Oh, for God's sake. You're meant to work really you're meant to work really hard to get ready for the season. And Man United players clearly aren't working hard enough, because when it gets to the start of the season, we don't look fit enough, and we only look fit after about a month into the season. It happens every time. It happens every time. So this story that's coming out, that the players believe the poor start to the season is down to overworking the squad in pre-season, I think is absolute rubbish. I think what I can get on board with is all the flying and going to different countries and, you know, all that sort of stuff in the schedule. That is really tough, absolutely. But the actual work you do in pre-season, no, I don't think it is. But you are being overworked. You're supposed to work really hard in pre-season to get fit for the start of the season. So I don't buy into that. Maybe in previous pre-seasons, under different managers, maybe the managers have been a bit softer on you and you haven't had to put in the hard yards. But under Erik ten Hag, he knows what discipline is, and you're at Man United. That's what you've got to do. Do you think Real Madrid in pre-season just do tactical work and don't get fit enough for the start of the season? Absolutely not. This is what players do, and this is what the top clubs do. He also said those discontented include several senior squad members. It is understood none have explicitly aired their concerns to the manager, who believes his players are fully committed and comprehend the need for sacrifice if Man United are willing to be consistently successful. So again, Erik ten Hag believes in the players. We've had this consistently coming out of Erik ten Hag, which he's backing the players, which he has to, because obviously you don't want to lose the dressing room. But senior players haven't aired their concerns to the manager. Interesting stuff. I mean, senior players of the squad, it's worrying for me that senior players of a Man United dressing room aren't willing to put in the hard yards in pre-season, or are willing to, but are using that as an excuse. I'm really sick of this excuse culture at Manchester United. I really am. Any athlete will know that in a pre-season, you use it to get yourself to the fitness level that you need to enter the season of sports, of professional sports. And Man United have consistently looked off it over multiple years. And that hasn't just been with Erik ten Hag as well. Under other managers, we've looked off it too. We really, really have at the start of seasons. So we always start the season a little bit slow. I think it's because we're actually not doing enough in that's what my theory has been. I don't know because I'm not there. My theory is it's because we've not been doing enough and we've been too busy travelling around, and we've maybe got too many games back to back, so the players haven't had, you know, the right respite and the rest recovery time. I don't think it's what we're doing in training in then times. So he then said, Jamie Jackson, that Ten Hag may have been governed by commercial demands with regard to pre-season itinerary. Christian Eriksen complained about the travelling after United had lost to Borussia Dortmund in Las Vegas in the final US tour game, but the midfielder stated a tough pre-season was to be expected. Again, this is one thing I do understand. I understand the fact that it must be so frustrating to have all of these commercial demands. I get the fact that we are Manchester United, and definitely worldwide fans 100% deserve to go and see Man United play, and they deserve to have that opportunity. I get it. But I don't think there needs to be games 24 hours within each other in different states. Like, why does that need to happen? I know from a lot of people that some of the reasons that these locations were chosen is because them stadiums would pay more money than stadiums that were maybe closer by. And pre-season for Man United, okay, yeah, it's about getting the players up to standard. It's about working on fitness and working on tactics. For Erik ten Hag, absolutely, that is the main focus, and for the players. But for the Glazers and the people that are in charge of the accounts at Manchester United, when they look at pre-season, they don't look at what's going to be best for the team, what's going to be best for Erik ten Hag, what's going to be the best to get the players ready for the pre-season. That's not the way the Glazers work. They look at what's going to make us the most money, how can we get the most commercial benefit out of this, how can we make the most money out of this pre-season tour. So when money comes above the fitness and the well-being and the state of the Manchester United squad going into the season, this is issues it's going to cause. And I've always said pre-season is meant to be tough, of course it is, but the amount of mileage that Manchester United do in pre-season, it's just it shouldn't be a thing. And we always go into the season shortchanged because our pre-seasons are never successful. They're successful for our aims going into the season. I don't think Erik ten Hag gets enough time, or the managers get enough time because of what's going on. I mean, what did City do in pre-season? I think they did a pre-season tour, was it in Japan? And they definitely didn't move around as much as Man United did. It depends on what your club values. Does it value money and commercial benefits, or does it value going into the pre-season fit, healthy and ready to go? We know what Manchester United value. And Jake Harrison says we should play 4 to 5 games tops in pre-season. This is it. Like, I'm not saying, by the way, when the Man United players believe that the poor start is down to Erik ten Hag overworking the squad in pre-season, I can see why you would think too many games close together is an issue. I get that. We don't need games back to back. We don't need games close together. But I don't think the training is an issue. The training, Erik ten Hag, we know this through previously. He sets out a pre-season, he plans it from drinks breaks. Like, he knows what he's doing. The pre-season training will be absolutely dead on by Erik ten Hag. I have no doubts. The games back to back and all the travelling and the lack of recovery time maybe could be an issue. Also, Jamie Jackson said John Murtough, Man United's football director, has no plan to follow Arnold and depart. Obviously, we've spoken about this. Arnold, I think, already had a disagreement behind the scenes, so it was easier to just let go now. I think he was going to lose his job anyway when Jim Ratcliffe came in because he wanted to bring in Claude Blanc. We know this. And that's going to be a great appointment, by the way, in my opinion. Let's see how it develops. But with John Murtough, I still think he'll leave, even though we keep getting told he's not going to leave. I still think he will leave. Whether he'll leave the club as a whole, I'm not sure. Whether he will depart from the role of football director and they'll make up another name of term for a different job for him, that I think I could see happening. I do think we'll definitely bring the likes of a Paul Mitchell in, or maybe a different name, but we'll bring in another sporting director. Maybe John Murtough will have another name that isn't football director, or a partnership with, where realistically probably the likes of Paul Mitchell or whoever they bring in do all the work. I'm not sure. And John Murtough deals with the business side of things. I'm not sure. John Murtough seems like a perfectly nice guy, by the way. I don't want to go in on someone, and I never want someone to lose the job. Like, that's absolutely not what we want. What I want anyway. Everyone's a human being. But the fact of the matter is, he's definitely not up to the task of being sporting director for Man United. Like, it's very well known. Nowhere near up to scratch. We need another sporting director in. Sir Jim has to do that, especially with all the hype around it now and people expecting it. John Murtough, the news that he's not going to follow, he's not going to leave. He might not leave, but he'll definitely, I think, depart that role. I really do. But get in your comments about this. Liam says Murtough's new job will be. Oh no, I'm not reading that one out. I'm not reading that one out. Flavio says, why should Mitchell give his expertise over to Murtough just like Rangnick did, to then be stabbed in the back like Rangnick was? Interesting stuff. I mean, you make a great point. I don't think Mitchell will be stabbed in. I do think it'll be different with Sir Jim coming in on the footballing side of things. The fact that we let go of Rangnick is really, really disappointing. But obviously Sir Jim wasn't in at that time. If he was in, maybe it would have been a different story. But yeah, absolutely silly stuff. Next, I want to move on to the last kind of bit of the show, which is a really kind of, I mean, it's like when people say Man United is a soap opera and it feels like it is a soap drama. I mean, we have more conflict than Coronation Street at this point, don't we? Seriously. So if anyone didn't see, there was a video that Man United put out of Altay Bayindé, Man United's second choice goalkeeper that we bought in the summer, saying his favourite Man United goalkeeper and one that he looked up to as a kid was Edwin van der Sar. Van der Sar commented back something along the lines of, I'll speak to you next time we're in Manchester, but Andre is my favourite, as you know. Something along them lines. It's now coming out from a Turkish journalist, obviously Bayındır is Turkish and he's doing well for his international team, by the way, said Edwin van der Sar's words greatly upset Altay Bayındır and his representative. They spoke to Manchester United's communication team about this. Bayındır showed a very good performance tonight in a match which he was unhappy. So apparently Bayındır is really unhappy about Van der Sar's comments. I think it's just completely over the top, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know if this is even a proper, true story, really. But I'm going to report on it because I've seen it come out. But it's like, I think it's always been known that the Dutch are quite straight to the point and straight and quite blunt with the way they speak. I think that's why Erik ten Hag gets kind of read sometimes. Like when he said he subbed Casemiro for more football, that came across really blunt. But I think that's just the way that the Dutch are. And also other things, I think he's been kind of misheard on a lot. And sometimes it can be a language barrier in just the way that different cultures are with the way they speak. But Bayındır, okay, maybe you are a little bit disappointed. Maybe the comment was unnecessary. But Edwin van der Sar, all he's really saying is that Onana's number one. And I'll speak to you when you're in Manchester. And I thought that was quite friendly. I think it was a little bit whole lot of nothing, to be honest with you. And I just didn't get it. But if you saw the Disco Mirror, David O'Donnell, he was saying yesterday in an interview that Altay Bayındır could well prove himself to be number one if Onana goes to AFCON with Cameroon in January, because he's been on Manchester United's radar for a long time. Erik ten Hag has been tracking him for a long time, which we know, and we've always reported on this show when we've got Bayındır. And he's been impressing everybody behind the scenes at Man United in training, and he looks like a very good goalkeeper. So that could be an interesting one. Maybe we have a situation where it's who should be number one again. I don't want that situation. For me, Onana is my number one. I'm excited to see Bayındır just to see what he can do. But Onana's number one. I think Bayındır knows that. But this whole lot of, these comments that have been said, making a kind of a meal out of a molehill, for me is just like, we're not a soap opera. Carol J says, why are the players having a go at Erik ten Hag about pre-season when pre-season was organised before Erik ten Hag was appointed as manager? Carol, you make a great point. I get where you're coming from. I think they're more bothered about the training as well, which is, we've had loads of comments about Erik ten Hag's training, and I'm like, suck it up. You were at Manchester United. Like, we have so many soft people, like, nowadays. Like, you are at the biggest club in the world. Of course the training is going to be difficult. Like, you are an athlete at the top level. But anyway, and Mohammed says he was decent against Germany and Wales. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch the Turkey games in the international break. The international break bores me at the best of times, but I've not watched the Turkish games. But I mean, I've not seen much of him because, I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch loads of Fenerbahce last year. But if anyone does have any opinions on Bayındır, let me know. The poll on the Evan Ferguson is still at 68% say no and 32% yes. So that is interesting. But last but not least, just to kind of finish off the show, I want to talk a little bit about Sunday. Obviously, Everton, it's going to be a tough game. We're at Goodison Park. What way would I go with this? What direction would I go with it? Would you bring Varane back in with all the news surrounding him at the moment? Would you stick with that partnership of Lindelof and Maguire? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Obviously, we're only on Wednesday, so we've got more days to kind of digest this and talk about this. And we will have a 2 p.m. show coming today. But thank you, everyone, for getting your opinions in the chat and getting your comments in on this Wednesday morning. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. There were some good moments in that show. Everyone can use this, the world's smallest violin, when someone's trying to gain a little bit of sympathy about something or is maybe being a bit of a victim around a subject that realistically doesn't require it. Just get on with it. That's what I think. Obviously, there's certain circumstances where you are in the right to be, upset and disheartened by stuff, but I don't think one of them circumstances is being overworked in pre-season for one of the biggest football clubs in the world. But let me know what your comments. Would you want to sign Evan Ferguson? Would you rather go for a type of Victor Osimhen, Lautaro Martinez either? What type of striker would you want to go for? Who should Man United sign in the January window? all your comments, make sure you get them in. I'll have a look through. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Last super chat is from Ray Carl Brown. How come every manager, the players have problems with the training? Exactly. There's always something. With Rangnick, they were bothered about driving home in the dark from training. I mean, it's crazy stuff. But thank you, everyone. Hit a like on the video on your way out. Have a lovely Wednesday, and I will see you on the next one.